Whenever we see a discrepancy in the scriptures between what Yeshua teaches and what his disciples do, we have to ask the question, what is missing here? We see that it details at the time of the death, the burial, and the resurrection of Yeshua. It says that there were women who then prepared spices for his burial, and then they rested on the Sabbath according to the commandment. Now, if somehow Yeshua was doing away with the commandments and doing away with the Sabbath, certainly those people who were his disciples, his intimate group that followed him, would certainly have known about this. And they certainly would have paid no attention to the Sabbath if he had somehow done away with this commandment, which is a sign that we are the people of the Most High God. The sun is set. The end of the sixth day. This is now the Sabbath, and this is Shabbat Night Live. Well, Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Welcome to Shabbat Night Live. We have our audience here with us in Charlotte, North Carolina, at our studio here, and we have folks that have gathered from around the world to be with us, and so it's good to have all of you here. We have our contingency from the serious students of the religion class at United States. No, UNC Charlotte. University of North Carolina at Charlotte. Good to have you gentlemen back with you, and they have brought another friend who is here with them, and so it's always good to see people that are serious, who go to school to seriously to study, and these gentlemen being in the religion class there. One of them, their father, is a pastor currently, also going to school, and and it is a never-ending education. I mean, it just doesn't stop just because you're a pastor, and that's unfortunately when most of it stops. We go to theological seminary. We get a degree, we get to learn everything that it takes to promulgate a particular denomination, and then they give us the impossible job, raising the dead 1 hour a week on a Sunday morning. That's an impossible job, but that's what the job is. That's, you might as well put it in the job description. You have to raise the dead, and you got 1 hour a week to do it. And so with that impossible job, with everything else, so much of the time it is very difficult to be able to spend the time in the scriptures. And so, we're relegated to having a 3x5 index card box that we buy from Pastoral Supply. We flip it open and we do a basic Russian roulette deck, and we pull out a card, and this is all the notes that we need for the sermon that week. It's unfortunate that that happens a lot of times, but it is good to see those who are very serious about the scriptures back with us here again. We also have a special guest, Denver Meadows, who has come in, drove in from Washington, D.C. It's always good to have Denver with us. Denver and I were in ministry. My goodness, it was over 40 years ago. Denver had just come back from Vietnam, tour of duty with the Air Cavalry over there, was back in the United States. In North Carolina, I was sent to North Carolina in the United States Marine Corps, and so we were involved in ministry back then, got to know each other, and as he was sitting in my office just a couple hours ago, we were reminiscing back to where my granddaughter, who was sitting on the desk, 5 years old, that's how old my oldest daughter was. 6 years old, 6 years old. Excuse me, she's over 5 now. She's 6. Oh boy, I'm in trouble now. So, my oldest daughter, Lee, her mother, was that old when Denver and I were together doing ministry, and he was over at our house quite a bit in Fairfax. Virginia, just outside of Washington, D.C. So it's good to have Denver back. Denver has been a member of our board of directors, and he was the one that really stood up for us when the rotund one attempted to take over my ministry. And Denver flew in because he knew some of the stuff that's going on in the background. And see, Denver had been with me. I mean, this is now over 40 years. He'd been around, and he wasn't about to let any moron take over my ministry, or even a smart person. As I'm getting some kind of high sign from my wife. This is like, okay. Was no going to let Denver wasn't going to let anyone come in and take over, no matter how covertly they orchestrated things at that time. So Denver has been with us, came down for Passover this last year. A week beforehand to help us prepare for Passover, was here for the entire Passover, actually stayed over, and he's been a great help, and it's always good to see my friend. And Denver and I are going to go up to a Bible college. I'm going to be teaching tomorrow evening at the end of Shabbat. We're going up north to, where is this place? Up by Greensboro. It's a little bit south of Greensboro. Going to be teaching there. And so he's come down for the festivities. So good to have Denver with us. And I know we have people from around the world that are visiting with us online. Please, the chat that we have on YouTube and all, that's not for you to just banter back and forth about nonsense. You can do that on your own time, okay? You're invited to our house, into our home here, and this is the Sabbath, and we like you to communicate with us. Tell us who you are. Tell us where you're from. Give us an idea of where you are coming from around the world. And please, if you're going to at all use the chat, please keep it on topic, but I would dare say that while you are typing away with one thing, we are already answering questions that you have not even begun to imagine the answers for. And so you might want to pay attention. This would be an excellent opportunity to just stop typing, quit chatting, and just listen. Because right now, we are on the 14th day of the 9th month. This is the month of Kislev. It's the 14th day of 6011. It is also on the pagan calendar. What is the date? It's December 9th of 2011 on the pagan calendar. And we just have just a few more months before the new issue of the astronomically and agriculturally corrected biblical Hebrew calendar comes out. And so this is something that you do not want to miss. This is the calendar that teaches you about the Creator's calendar. The Creator's calendar is actually in the heavens and on the earth. It is reckoned according to the first sliver of the new moon and the sighting of the Aviv barley in the land of Israel. That is what marks the beginning of the year. And it is always around the time of the vernal equinox, which is a mathematical moment in time that is very accurately described. It is a little bit before, a little bit after that we see the barley Aviv in the land of Israel and the new moon of the that begins the year. And so it is at that time that each year we publish the calendar. We have articles that tell about the work of the restoration of the ancient biblical calendar. And so we encourage all of you to get this, to basically memorize the information. Not every incident that's in here, but you're going to find that the restoration of the calendar, this project had been going on for many, many years among the Orthodox Jewish scholars in the land of Israel and among the Karaites who were restoring the ancient reckoning of the ancient Hebrew agricultural term Aviv. And so it was Robert Scott Wadsworth and I that were working on visible new moon sighting criterion here in America. We published a calendar, we took it to Israel, and this caught the attention of the rabbinic scholars. That's why they invited me to become a member of the Israeli New Moon Society, which is the group of Orthodox scholars who's dedicated to restoring the ancient calendar used in the time of the temple. Anyone who knows anything about the modern Jewish calendar knows that it's not the calendar that we used in biblical times. It was created in 359 of the Common Era, the last act of the Sanhedrin before going into exile. They then instituted and sanctified a calculated calendar which is based on mathematical logarithms derived from Arab astronomers in Babylon. And it was done to approximate the timing of conjunction, which has nothing to do with the sighting of the new moon, which every rabbinic scholar, there's not a single one that debates this. It's only Gentiles who know nothing about this. That's why it says that the oracles of God were committed to the Jews, okay? Not to Gentiles in, like living in mountainous areas with very few teeth, okay? Okay, so we're just trying to educate people on the calendar. Get your calendar. We've got a very good special on right now. But remember, this is the calendar that teaches you about the Creator's calendar. This is not the Creator's calendar. His calendar is in the heavens. Howbeit, it's the 14th day of the month of Kislev. We are only basically 11 days away from the beginning of Hanukkah. Hanukkah begins on the 25th day of the month. We are 14 days away from our 2011 Hanukkah extravaganza, which is going to be in Florida, Fort Lauderdale, Florida, right on the beach. You don't want to miss this, because on the beach this year we're going to be having a Mikvah. There, those of you who have wanted to participate in the Mikvah, which is not just the Hebrew term for baptism, but baptism is an English word which is a transliteration of a Greek word, baptizo, which was used in Greek culture, and it comes laden with Greek or pagan customs and traditions. To understand what baptism is, you have to understand the Mikvah. And this may be harsh news for some of you out there, but John the Baptist, his name wasn't John, nor was he a Baptist. Okay? That's a hard, cold reality. He was a priest. He was Yohanan ben Zachariah HaKohen. He was the son of a priest after the order of Aviah. His father was Zechariah, and he was doing something that every Israelite understood intimately, the Mikvah. But he was doing it outside the confines of the religious system of his day, which caused the consternation and the questioning of the Pharisees, who sent Levites and Kohanim down to him to ask him, what are you doing? Are you the Messiah? Are you the prophet? And he said, no, I have come to make a way for him. At Hanukkah this year, we are going to do the Mikvah. I'm going to teach on it, and we are going to be doing the Mikvah in the living waters of the Atlantic Ocean. And so everyone who comes will be able to participate in that, and this is going to be a wonderful occasion. Hanukkah, we only have 300 seats total. This is the time, ladies and gentlemen, register for it now. Get down there. There are only 300 seats in this auditorium, just like there were only 300 of Gideon's band. Just like there are only 300 Greeks who stood against the Persians in the Hot Gates, there are going to be 300 of the sons of the Maccabees standing against the Greeks this time in their religious philosophies, and we are going to stand against the band of Antiochus. Right here is our card. Many of you in Florida and in the southern states received this card right here, in the mail, and this is Hanukkah, Stand Against the Band. See, Antiochus Epiphanes, we're going to read about this tonight, but Antiochus Epiphanes, he was the one who banned the reading of the Torah, the speaking of the name, the Tetragrammaton, and the Moedim, or the feast of the Lord, which are the Creator's times and seasons. He was the one who forbid these things on penalty of death. We're going to read about that tonight as we get into our reading tonight, which is going to be, most excitedly, in the book of Maccabees. So a lot of people out there have never read the book of Maccabees. This is very important. I am very excited about this because, see, Hanukkah is the one winter feast that Yeshua went out of his way. He went up to Jerusalem. Even under the threat of death, he went up there to then show us the prophetic significance of that particular feast. There is more biblical text concerning Hanukkah than there is any other incident in the Gospels except for the Passover in which he was crucified. So it's not a lightweight thing. It must be understood, but unfortunately, it was in 1825 when the American Bible Society took it upon themselves to take the book of Maccabees out of the 1611 King James Version of the Bible, leaving us bereft of essential information for us to understand what Yeshua was teaching about and what the Feast of Hanukkah, translated as the Feast of Dedications in John chapter 10, I believe, verse 22, that tells us that that's where he was, and that's where we were for the last 5 weeks. So, ladies and gentlemen, we are not through with Hanukkah. We are on our way to Hanukkah, and we are expecting 300 warriors to meet us there. Nehemiah Gordon is coming from Israel. Andrew, who is going to be, we now have his new CD, by the way. We were playing it a little bit before the meeting began. We have Andrew Hodkinson's new CD. Andrew Hodkinson from South Africa. He is going to be there. We have people coming in from around the world. Do not miss this. It's only a 3-day drive from any place in the continental United States, so be there. If you have to, sleep on the beach. Don't tell them I said you could do that. I don't think you can. Okay. So now we also tonight have a special announcement. We are right now 3 months away from the beginning of our Israel tour. Right now, 3 months away. Now, last week, the first person to register after Shabbat Night Live, after the Sabbath, was David Luviano. David Luviano, and he is from Clinton, Utah. David, you are the one that gets the 50 shekels. Before I'm signing it, I'm sending it out to you, David. It's going to be great to have you on the tour. And I think some of you do not really fully appreciate what we do on these tours. And let me give you an example of something that happened that Judith and I were a part of. There is what everyone does in Israel. It is a tour. Everyone does it. You go on a Benny Hinn tour, and they even hire, the state of Israel allows them to hire tour guides that are not even tour guides because he has so many people come over there, and it's just the same old thing. They take the buses around the same route, and they do all the same things, go to all the same pagan places, the same churches. You know, they take you to the Church of the Holy Peter where Jesus had his first sandwich. And on and on and on. I mean, right below my house, right down below where Judith and I live, if we walk out our front door, down over the hill, we come upon Ein Kadesh. But it's now called Ein Perea. Why? Because Ein Kadesh is a very significant biblical story. But because they could not make a way to get buses down to it, they moved Ein Kadesh 25 miles north, turned this into Ein Perea so that they could get buses to a tourist spot, okay? Well, we don't take you to the fake places. We take you to the places things really happen and tell you the stories behind the stories, and we go the exact opposite route around the country. Now, this is what happened. I'll tell you, because it doesn't matter whose tour you go on. If it's not mine, you are going to do basically the same tour with a little added on. Okay? This is why it took me years to beat up these tour companies after the tourists started coming back, because I started doing my tour when they were blowing up buses in Israel, my favorite time to do a tour. It keeps all the pain and the tuchus innocent bystanders out of the country so we can really do what we want to do there, okay? But what happens is at the end of the tour, basically they drop people off in Jerusalem, and by then they're tired, they just want to go shopping, the tour guides are finished with you, it's all over with. And so we ran into some folks that their lifetime dream was to come to Israel on a tour. And at the end, they were in Jerusalem, and they were from Uganda. And they were there, and there were 5 of them there, and they were so bored, they were at a hotel in just, they were just ready to get on the plane. It was a whole day away, and they're just ready to get on the plane. Well, I wasn't going to let this happen, because when you're in Jerusalem, you are in my hometown. You don't come to Jerusalem and think that it's boring or that there's nothing to do or nothing to see. We start out the tour with 3, from the crack of dawn till late at night, journeys through the city of Jerusalem. And I'll tell you, as soon as I announced this tour, the man sitting in here, Denver Meadows, said, I'm on that tour. He's been on the tour before. He was one of the first people to sign up. What's that? Twice. He's been on 2 tours, and he's one of the first people to sign up again. Why? Because it's so rich, it's so full, there's so much going on. Who's the other guy? Who's going to room with him? Tom Kennedy, who's already been on another tour. These guys can't wait to get back. You know, these guys are out on the highways collecting pop bottles and turning them in for the 10-cent deposit to earn their way to the tour. Well, okay, maybe they're not doing that, but it's worth it, folks. Whatever you have to do to get on this tour, it is absolutely worthless. It's worth it. Hey, I need some water. Somebody can help me out with that. This is going to be a long night by the time we get through the book of Maccabees. It's already taken care of. Thank you. So, it's worth it. It's worth every dime of this tour. And once you're on it, folks, you'll understand. So I want you to understand that you register for this tour, get on it no matter what it takes, collect the pop bottles, because the next person that registers after Shabbat, guess what? 100 shekels. 100 shekels I'm going to send you. And I think this is probably the last bill I can find. 100 shekels to spend any way you want to in the land of Israel, right there. And who is this? Who is this? Is this like Kissinger or what? Yeah, it's Begin. Okay. Menachem Begin. I know it's not Kissinger, but it just looks like him, okay? You get 100 shekels to spend any way you want on our tour in Israel, the next person to register. So this probably is the last chance. As a matter of fact, if a couple registers, as soon as you get over to Israel, I'm going to hand the husband, 100 shekels, because when I send this, I'm sure the wife is going to put it in her pocketbook immediately. So I'm going to give you another 100 shekels when you get to Israel and join us there. So we have got an exciting evening planned for you. Judith is going to be here with some letters from our viewers. We have some questions. I believe we usually have some questions that have come up from viewers out there. Good to have you here in the audience with us. Good to have you here around the world, and we'll be back just in one moment. Thank you. In 1825, overturning prior British law, the American and British Bible Societies removed the book of Maccabees from the 1611 original King James Version of the Bible. With the King James Version translating the word Hanukkah into dedication in John chapter 10, everyone lost track of why Yeshua was at the feast of Hanukkah and what he did there that was so prophetically significant that it has ramifications until and through the end times. Ladies and gentlemen, we are going to be in Fort Lauderdale, Florida for the Feast of Hanukkah. We have Nehemiah Gordon coming from Israel. We have Keith Johnson, Arthur Bailey, myself, and Andrew Hodgkinson, who is coming all the way from South Africa to be the 5 Maccabee brothers who are going to bring out the hammer against the ban of Antiochus that is still standing in denominational churchianity today. Ladies and gentlemen, you do not want to miss this weekend. We are calling for the 300 to stand against the ban. We have exactly 300 seats that are available at Hanukkah. You need to register now. You need to be involved and join us, the 5 Maccabean brothers, as we turn the world upside down in Fort Lauderdale this Hanukkah, December 23rd through the 26th of 2011. Be there. Be part in one of the 300. Welcome back. Shabbat Shalom, everyone. It's good to have you joining us from around the world. We have our crew here, the Rood crew, and the crew here in the studio. Good to have you with us again. We've got just 1 week. I'll be at the House of Israel for the dedication. Next week, we are going to be, and so we are not going to be having Shabbat dinner here at the studio at the Rood Awakening International headquarters here. So no get-together next week for that. And the week after that, we will be in Fort Lauderdale at Hanukkah. And so we invite you to join us there. But we will, of course, not be here. We'll be live from Hanukkah, and so you don't want to miss that. And so this will be the last time that we're together for some time. Now, what we are hoping to do, ladies and gentlemen, and I need to make you aware of this. At the end of our tour this summer, in which we were doing 3 different seminars. We were doing the Out of Babylon tour, Isaac Newton's Last Dilemma, and Hebrews, the letter to the Messianic Hebrews, moving on to maturity. At the end of those, I intended to be able to record, film all those here. We got back here, and honestly, we need some help as far as finishing up our studio with the lighting. The other things, we're using some, a lot of borrowed equipment in here right now, lighting a very small part of this particular studio. But we want to be able to film this. In order to do this, I need someone to write me a check for $38,000, okay? Just one check, that's all I need. Somebody out there can do it because I need lighting. I need some things here. This is all gear, okay? This is not so that I can buy a falafel sandwich or anything else. It's not for me personally. I don't need any help personally. I need someone's help so that I can get these 3 seminars filmed, plus Nehemiah and Keith. I want to film them doing the seminar on the prayer to our Father. This is shaking things up around the world, ladies and gentlemen. It's doing some great things out there. Keith was just in here this week. We got together. They are now going into the Spanish version. It has been translated. I received a copy of the Chinese version, and this is going to thousands and thousands of pastors in China. And I have some great news that just came in this week. We're going to be doing some stuff not only in English, but also in Korean. And so some big breakthroughs are happening, but I need your help, folks, okay? Now, I'll tell you, $38,000, this is less than the weekly budget for one televangelist on one network for 1 week time, okay? So, we're doing this thing on a shoestring. We need your help. $38,000, make it out to a Rood Awakening. Your contribution is completely tax deductible, and you can help us get things going. Everyone else, we need you to continue to stand with us and support us in this work. We have 20 full-time and part-time Levites who are working, not only here in America, but also in other countries who are part of this ministry. And so, it takes a lot, and a lot of what we're doing is giving stuff away to help people and to minister people out there. And I just got this news report in from where we just opened our office in the Netherlands. The Dutch seek space for a growing appetite for abominations. Right here, there are 17 million Dutch in the Netherlands. They've got 14 million pigs. They're trying to figure out what they're going to do with all the pigs. They're talking about building high-rise pig scrapers. They are boasting themselves to be raising more pigs for consumption than Germany, which is many times larger than the Netherlands. Ladies and gentlemen, we've got to get to these people. They don't need to build high-rise pig scrapers. They need to be obedient to the Torah and quit eating these things the Almighty created as garbage disposals. Let them loose. I mean, you see them in the land of Israel. These black hogs are running through the hinterlands, and what are they doing? This is free-range pork. I know you'll see free-range pork actually advertised in a big chain out there, but I'll tell you, if you let pork free-range, what they're doing is eating the cadavers of animals that have died, okay? That's what they do in real life. That's what they were created for. The Creator did not create swine for for human consumption. He says that's an abomination. He did not create them to be received with thanksgiving in them that know the truth. Because the truth is the Torah. We know what he created to be received with thanksgiving. Pigs are not among them, okay? They're made as garbage disposals to keep the earth clean. So let these pigs loose and let them clean up the dead carrion. And when they die, they will eat each other. And so they will just keep recycling the infestation of all these worms and trichinosis and everything. They just keep within themselves. It doesn't hurt anybody if you just let the pigs eat the dead cadavers of the pigs when they die in the wild. But please don't eat them, okay? Amen. I want you to live long and prosper. Okay. Which is the short version of the Aaronic blessing. Yes, Leonard Nimoy is a Cohen. That's why he gave the intergalactic Aaronic blessing. Live long and prosper. Okay? So now you know the rest of the story. Ladies and gentlemen, a warm welcome for the lovely Judith Rood, my wife.
Michael?
Judith, tell us all about what is going on out there. Do we have some letters? I see we always have questions. I hope we have some encouraging letters.
Well, we have a lot of encouraging letters, but the questions that we're going to dive right into tonight because they are encouraging too.
Okay, I thought I was going to get a break.
Well, you know, the thing is, Michael, this is not hard for you. This is things that you've been teaching, but you know, the wonderful thing about it is that we have people coming into the understanding of the Torah, and they're newcomers. But they have those basic fundamental questions, and so we've got some real good ones here, but they're very comprehensive. So I'm going to share them with you.
Let's get going because we don't have all night.
Right, we don't.
And I already took up half of it.
Right, that's true. Okay.
With the pig scraper.
Well, L. McPherson writes, I need help with Mark 15:16 in the description of the 3 days and 3 nights in between these 2 chapters. I'm reading from the Scriptures, 2009 edition.
The Scriptures, 2009, okay.
I know that the sign of Jonah is true, and that there is no way that anyone could get 3 days and 3 nights between Good Friday and Ishtar Sunday. And that's a complete fabrication of the Western Gentile mindset. But between these 2 chapters, I can understand why the Christians get so confused and why we need to learn how to count to 3 and then to 7. In Mark 15:42-47, they put Yeshua in the grave before the day of the Shabbat during the preparation day. So preparation day should equal 1 day and 1 night, and Shabbat should equal 1 day and 1 night. Altogether so far, 2 days and 2 nights. In Mark 16:1-3, and so on, it says that on the first day of the week, the day after Shabbat, that the 2 Miriams and Shalomah went to anoint him very early when the sun had risen. But that's only the beginning of day 3. I know that he was in the grave 3 days and 3 nights. I know that he didn't rise on Ishtar Sunday. But is something written wrong through translation here, or did I miss something? Because Scripture can't contradict itself. Could you explain to me what I am missing in the Scripture? Am I still incapable of counting to 3? That would explain why I still have trouble counting to 7. Blessings to the Rood crew. You've certainly been a blessing to this ministry. Sincerely, L.
Okay, well, thank you. Well, L. McPherson. I wonder if that's... Okay, well, L will answer that question. I made a couple notes here because I think there was... here is a common misunderstanding. Everyone can open their Bibles to where she had suggested that there's a problem. And again, anytime we have apparent contradictions of Scripture, it's either because of our understanding or in our translation. And so first of all, we're going to attack both of them at the same time. Mark chapter 15 is where we begin finding this situation in which we have the crucifixion. And in verse 42, now when the even was come, because it was the preparation, that is the day before the Sabbath. First of all, we have two terms here, the preparation and the Sabbath. Both of these terms are misunderstood in the Western Gentile world, because number one, the Sabbath, if the Sabbath, first of all, is the seventh day. That is the Sabbath. In order to find the Sabbath, you cannot look at the sun, you can't look at the moon or the stars. You have to be able to count to 7, okay? It has nothing to do with the moon. Just because the Jewish encyclopedia in their humanistic expression or trying to explain the Bible away in humanistic terms said that the Sabbath must have been calculated or understood by the moon. Never in the history of the human race has this ever been so, okay? It's a humanistic explanation, all right? It's just as valid as Martians or spacemen coming down and seeding life on Earth or bringing Adam and Eve down in a spaceship, okay? It's just has got as much validity as that. That's how much the lunar Sabbath has validity. To find the Sabbath, you have to be able to count 7. You work for 6 days, and then the 7th day is the Sabbath day, all right? But that's not the only Sabbath day there is. Every single feast begins and it ends with a Sabbath day. It's called a high Sabbath. So, when we talk about the preparation, the Friday is not referred to as the day of preparation in the Bible. We are talking about the preparation for Passover. That is the issue that is at hand. Yeshua is fulfilling the details of the Passover rehearsal. This is a prophetic shadow picture of good things to come that Yeshua is literally fulfilling to the day, hour, and moment. Now, all we have to do to be able to prove this is to just go to another gospel. Go to John chapter 20. John chapter 20, we find ourselves right into the heat of the battle. John chapter 20, and, it's chapter 19. All right? John chapter 19, we'll start with verse 1. Then Pilate therefore took Yeshua and scourged him. Okay, so that gives you an idea of the time frame where we are. Verse 14, and it was the preparation of the Passover. Could it be clearer? It's the preparation of the Passover about the 6th hour, and he said unto the Jews, behold your king. Okay, so he is being crucified, he's scourged by Pilate, and he's going to be crucified on the day of preparation for what? The Passover. And when the Passover is sacrificed, that afternoon it's put in the oven. When the sun goes down, the lamb is brought out, eaten with unleavened bread and bitter herbs. That is the first day of the Feast of Unleavened Bread. It is a high Sabbath, okay? So this is where people make the first mistake. Because in Mark, it says it's the day before the Sabbath, the day of preparation. But if we do not understand the Torah, the prophetic shadow pictures of good things to come, if we don't understand what Yeshua was doing and fulfilling, then we are lost to begin with, okay? Now we move on to chapter 16 and verse 2. And very early in the morning, the first day of the week, they came unto the sepulchre at the rising of the sun. At the rising of the sun, and this rising of the sun, at the rising of the sun, now we have a verse that seems to be contradictory to that. So we're going to go back to John chapter 20. John chapter 20 and verse 1. The first day of the week cometh Miriam from Migdal. Her last name is not Magdalene. It's Miriam from Migdal, which is just a little north of Tiberias. We live a little south of Tiberias. I think Migdal is about the same distance north of Tiberias. Mm-hmm. You know, right on the same side of the lake. Okay? Harp Lake. That's where we live. Harp Lake. That's what Kinneret means. harp. It's in the shape of a harp. We have a harp right over there. We might even be able to get a shot of that sometime and show you what this harp looks like, because that's the exact shape of that lake that we live in, okay? The first day of the week cometh Miriam from Migdol early, and she didn't come from then, it's just that that's where she's from originally. When it was yet, someone help me with this word? Dark. Unto the sepulchre, and saw the stone taken away from the sepulchre. So when Miriam got there, it was still dark. Okay? And so you have an apparent contradiction, at least in English. Now, to solve that problem, what we need to do is go to a Greek text, and somebody ran off with my favorite Greek text, which has no covers on it. It's so old. So I guess they ran off it because they don't want anyone to think that I'm a poor scholar. Give me a new book to read. And in verse 2, we have, to keep from going into too much detail, we have the words epi and ana. Epi and ana. Epi in Greek is upon, ana, and it's really ana rising, which is up. Ana is up. Epi is upon. Okay. Let me describe this. Okay. Epi is upon. Okay. Ana is up, or you could say upon the rising. Upon the rising. Okay. It doesn't tell us how close to the rising it was. It doesn't mean that, okay, it's like a farmer. A farmer gets up when the rooster starts crowing, and the rooster starts crowing before the sun comes up, because there's enough light in the sky to conduct business. You can do what needs to get done without having any lights on before the sun comes up. And so we don't have in Greek, we do not have anything that says what her particular text says before when the sun had risen. It does not say that in Greek. It says upon the uprising of the Helios, okay? Upon the uprising of the Helios. So John tells us it was still dark. So what do we know about this time of the uprising? There was enough light to where they could see what was going on. Miriam could see what appeared to be a gardener that she then spoke to, which turned out to be Yeshua. But it was dark enough to where she couldn't see him distinctly, but it was still dark, but there was enough light to where they can actually get there. Okay? So does that help? Okay? Now we have, I think we have those questions answered, because first of all, he was crucified that year, the 14th day of the month of the Aviv, when the Passover lambs were sacrificed, was on a Wednesday. No question about it. And so he was in the grave before the sun went down on Wednesday night, because when the sun went down, Wednesday night was the high Sabbath of the Feast of Unleavened Bread. And so now he is in the grave Wednesday night, Thursday night, and Friday night. He's in the grave all Thursday, all Friday, all Shabbat, and raised when? On the third day, according to the Scriptures. The Jonah Code. 3 days and 3 nights and raised on the third day. He was raised on the Sabbath. Okay? So now, if he's raised on the Sabbath, when they rest on the Sabbath, according to the commandment, which I opened with today, speaking about that very thing, see, what they did is Thursday, Wednesday night, until sundown Thursday was a high Sabbath. You can't buy anything to, anything, period. It's a high Sabbath. Friday, then they prepared the spices, because you had to go out and buy them. They prepared them and then rested on the Sabbath according to the commandment. Then coming the first day of the week, while it was still dark, nearing the uprising of the sun, they came to the grave and it was already empty. Did he get up at the Easter sunrise service? Did he get up when the sun come up? No, he was already gone. When did he get up? On the third day. To understand the Jonah Code, you have to understand the Torah. You have to understand the feast that Israel was commanded to keep forever. And so we're going to take a break. Al, thanks for writing. And if you're the one with all the friends out in Hollywood, tell them Shabbat Shalom for us. We're going to take a break right now.
Shabbat Shalom.
Welcome back to Shabbat Night Live. We have taken an extended time to do questions and answers. I do not understand how the Bible answer man, they can ask a question and in 2 minutes he has it answered. I just don't understand how that works. I guess it only works if you ask real simple questions that have one verse answers, like you can read one verse and that's the answer. Unfortunately, to answer this question, we have to take you back into the feast. We have to take you back into the biblical reckoning of time. We have to give you the context, and that's what our tours of Israel are all about. Putting the Bible in context, taking you to the land, getting you connected with the land, the language, the people, the culture of Israel, so that from then on, you take this book, you open it up, and it's now in 3D, it's in HD, and it's in surround sound. That's what the goal is. That's what my tours to Israel will do for you. It will completely change your perspective on life. And so I believe that, Judith, you have some more, another question or two or something for us.
Yeah, well, that was a very comprehensive question. Thank you so much, because that is such a simple, basic understanding, and it is true. We read the Bible all of our lives, but when we go to Israel, it's never the same again after that. It really comes to life. But we have another very, very foundational question, very extensive. Ray has written in a question, and he's saying that I'm having some issues with my faith, Michael. I'm a goyim, I'm a Gentile, but I do have some Jewish blood in my ancestry. Do I have to keep the Torah? I understand that with what Yeshua fulfilled, it is no longer in use or needed, like the sacrifices. But what about circumcision, the feasts, Shabbat, the laws, all 613 of them? What is grace about?
Wait. Hold on just a minute. What have you got? I mean, this is like a 3-week seminar here.
Well, okay. It does sound like a 3-week seminar, but we can appreciate the dilemma of his perspective. And
okay, go ahead, keep on reading.
We're going to throw out the rest of the question, and it does kind of tie in. He died so that we were not bound to the law anymore, right? Can you help me? Can you guide me? Please help. Thank you so very much. And you know, this is just...
I'm not going to be able to memorize all those things, okay?
But this is typical of the dilemma that people face when they first start to see that their understanding has been totally contradictory to what their new understanding is.
First of all, do I have to or should I keep the Torah? Let's go to the Torah and find out about this. Right at the beginning of Exodus, even before we get the commandments, Genesis, Exodus, everyone turn there, please. Exodus, we'll find this, the giving of the Torah, the shutting down of the commandments. We start in chapter 19, but we are going to go back to Exodus 12, verse 49. And this is talking about when we are being driven out of Egypt. It's talking about the Passover. And then it says here in verse 49, one law or one, what word would this be in the Hebrew text? Anyone help me with that? Torah. Yeah, that shouldn't be hard for everyone to answer. When you see the word law, it is Torah. It means the instructions, okay? One Torah shall be to him that is homeborn and unto the stranger that sojourns among you. Okay? There's no difference. It's like the Torah is the constitution of the land of Israel. That's what it is. This is how the Creator designed life to be lived. This is how we love Him. with all our heart, soul, mind, and strength. It's how we love our neighbor as ourselves. You want to live outside of those things, you're either not loving God, not obeying His commandments, you are not fearing and respecting Him, or you are not loving your fellow man, if you're outside of the Torah in any way. That's why Yeshua says on those two commandments hang all the Torah and the prophets. There's just one for everyone. Now, lest we think that that's the only one, we go to Leviticus 24. This is right after Leviticus 23 that details the feast of Yahovah, which brings up a question many of you are asking, as I have many teachings out there of teaching the name of Yahweh. There is some work that Nehemiah has been doing. It's been very substantial, and the finding in two ancient Torah texts where the scribes accidentally put in all the vowel pointings. Ladies and gentlemen, if this follows through, we may have the key to unlock why we have not seen the power of the Almighty released in our generation. Maybe He's waking us up. Maybe He's revealing stuff to us all along the way so that He can bring to pass what it says in the 9th chapter of Exodus, that He raised up Pharaoh and is doing all these miracles so that the whole world would know that His name is Yod, He, Vav, He. Okay? So could He be showing us? And will we have the meekness, if He is showing us from heaven, that He has had some people make some mistakes so that His name would be properly embedded in two of the most important ancient Torah texts that we have on the planet? That's the question. And it's up to everyone to have that answered for themselves, because immediately everyone could say, you know, I already have, about $225,000 invested in a television program called The Name, in which I pronounce it this way, and so there's no way that it can be another way. Many of you could say that out there. Well, maybe not many of you. Maybe I could say that. But see, I am not wanting to shut out what the Almighty may be revealing to us at this point in time. Okay? So, that's just a side note. You didn't pay any extra for this. Leviticus chapter 24, however, we deal with this in verse 22. Ye shall have one manner of Torah, as well for the stranger as for one of your own country. I am Yahweh, your Elohim. In case it's not, I am Yahovah, your Elohim. Okay? One Torah. It's for everyone. Everyone gets to do it, in other words. Everyone gets to do it. It's not just for Jews to do the Torah. Not just for Israelites. It's whosoever will may come. Whosoever wants to be grafted in. I mean, we just go back just a few short chapters back to chapter 12. It's talking about why is it that it's one Torah for the stranger? It's because we came out of Egypt as a mixed multitude. I think Charlton Heston said it best. Whoever wants freedom, let him come. Okay, that's a later text of the scripture. It's called the Cecil B. DeMille version. Numbers chapter 15. Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers chapter 15. One other place that we can look at right here and to help nail this down. Here we are in verse 16. One Torah, one manner shall be for you and for the stranger that sojourneth among you. And then down to 29. You shall have one Torah for him that sinneth through ignorance, both for him that is born among the children of Israel and for the stranger that sojourns among you. So even if you are ignorant of what sin is, still there's only one standard for sin. That's the Torah. As it tells us in 1 John that sin is the transgression of the Torah. If you are not transgressing the Torah, you are not living in sin, regardless of what your pastor tries to heap on you with the guilt trip, okay? Christians are the guiltiest people on the planet because they're always breaking some religious denomination's rules. Their rules, forget it. The Torah is the rule book. If you break the rules of the Almighty, feel guilty because you are. All right? But if you're not breaking His rules, then relax. Enjoy life. It's not that hard. You know, it's fun. Okay, so should I keep the Torah? I think so. You want to be grafted into Israel. If you want to enter in through one of the gates that lead to life, then I would say it would be a real good idea to keep His commandments, unless you hate Him. Because that is how the Torah describes you hate God if you don't keep His commandments. 1 John says that he who does not keep the commandments, he who sins does not love God. If he says he loves God but doesn't keep the commandments, he's a liar, and the truth is not in him. I don't care if he's got his own televangelist show and has got all his hair coiffed and everything else. If he doesn't keep the commandments and he says he loves God, he's a liar. He's a damned liar. I use that term, biblically accurate. Okay? You know? Because he will be judged by the Almighty. That's what damned means. He will be judged by the Almighty. Oh, you say you love me. Depart from me, you idiot. I never knew you. That's what Yeshua says. Wait, no. He doesn't say that. He doesn't say idiot. He says, you anomia. Without nomia, Torah. You're without Torah, you're an idiot. You know, so I guess we could say it. He says, you're without Torah, get out of my face. I don't know you, you don't know me, and I don't care what you say. I don't care how many songs you've written. Okay, I understand. Now let's keep on going here, because that's not the end of this question. I understand that what Yeshua fulfilled is no longer in use or needed like the sacrifices. Okay, first of all, the word fulfilled. Where do people get this word fulfilled? I mean, it is the most overused, misused word in all of the Bible. I read in Matthew chapter 5, verse 17, which is the theme verse of all churchianity. Think not. That's what it says. Matthew 5:17. Everyone turn to, it says right there, think not. It actually says more than that. Think not that I am come to destroy the nomos or nomia, the Torah, or the prophets. I am not come to destroy, but to fulfill. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we are going to theologically define the word fulfill. Okay? Because everyone wants to use this like Jesus fulfilled the Sabbath, so I don't have to. Just like I said a couple weeks ago, somebody else fulfilled keeping the speed limit as I went past them, and so I don't have to keep the speed limit. Okay? I mean, we come up with some really ridiculous stuff of fulfilled. You know, fulfill is to fill up, to complete. You know, Yeshua is the end of the law, the end of the Torah. It doesn't mean that the Torah quit and now there's no more sin. No, He's the end of it. It's like the culmination. It's like the pinnacle of it. It's like what it is all about. He is it. He's what it's all about. Do you think that when we broke the covenant and the sacrifice of bulls and goats was given to us as to show over and over and over again that there is a deficit to be paid, do you think that, somehow that is the end all and be all of that? No, it's a placeholder to show us that there is a deficit that is owed. The death penalty is owed. That is the curse of the law. The curse of the law is death. You break the law, you break the Torah, you break the covenant, and you die. That is the curse of the law. And when it talks about in Galatians that we are redeemed from the curse of the law, we're redeemed from the death penalty. It's not that the law is a curse, The law is holy, it's righteous, it's just, it's true. It shows us the heart of our Heavenly Father. It tells us what sin is. Do you think He's done away with it? That's ridiculous. So, people want to say that, well, Jesus fulfilled the law and the prophets. No, you got to read it. You know, in the prophets, it tells us very clearly about, you know, one day the lion laying down with the lamb, the wolf, the wolf laying down by the lamb, the child playing by the den of the cockatrice, and, you know, nation will not lift up sword against nation, neither will they learn war anymore. Has that happened yet? No. Has all of the Torah and the prophets been fulfilled then? No. I mean, you can't even make it up. You'd have to be a complete biblical illiterate to even think that. But this is what's going on in churchianity, in man-made religion today. It's like all of God's commandments are done away with. Now you have hundreds of our commandments. No. Yeshua deliberately broke the commandments of the man-made religious system. And if you're a follower of Messiah, if He's in you, you'll probably be breaking their commandments too and feeling great as you do it. You just got to renew your mind. Got to renew your mind. Okay. So, what about circumcision? We just had a circumcision here last week, right here. My firstborn grandson was circumcised on his 8th day here. Circumcision, I think I can read just a couple verses because we went through this in detail at the circumcision of my grandson, Elijah, John, Eliyahu, Yonah, Benjamin. And we read in, this is the 17th chapter, and this is where Avram is being instructed in this very issue right here. Verse 7. It says, "And I will establish my covenant between me and thee and thy seed after thee in their generations for an everlasting covenant, to be a God unto thee and to thy seed after thee. And I will give thee into thy seed after thee the land wherein thou art a stranger, all the land of Canaan," or the Canaanites. Remember the Canaanites, the sons of Canaan, who was cursed by Noah, the sex pervert Canaan, who then, after the Tower of Babel, his descendants came in and squatted in the land and filled it with sex perversion and child sacrifice. And then when their sins came to a full, the Almighty said, "I've had enough. I'm going to bring the descendants of Abraham out of Egypt, and you're going to come in and wipe out these people, and you are going to take that land." Okay? "And I'm going to give you that land for an everlasting possession, and I will be their God," your descendants. "And God said unto Abram, Thou shalt keep my covenant, therefore thou and thy seed after thee in their generations, and this is my covenant, and this my covenant, which ye shall keep between me and thee and thy seed after thee. Every man child among you shall be circumcised. And you shall circumcise the flesh of your foreskin, and it shall be a token of the covenant between me and you." Circumcision is a token of the covenant. The covenant was made with Abraham, and that is when he cut the bull in half, the lamb in half, and then when he cut the two doves. The blood ran into the middle of the valley. The Almighty walked up and down through that blood, putting Abraham to sleep, signifying it wasn't even up to Abraham's strength or ability. The Almighty would fulfill this when Abraham was dead and in the grave. But the covenant of circumcision is the promise that this land, all the land, not just Canaan, but the land from the Euphrates to the Nile, belongs to the sons of Israel. You want in on that covenant? You're welcome to. You don't have to be born Jewish to be able to get in on that covenant. You have to be grafted in as a child of Israel and then do what he says. Okay? You don't want to be part of that? See, it's not necessary. You know, the Greeks, now remember Timothy wasn't circumcised, and Shaul took him and circumcised him. Because there's places you don't go unless you're circumcised. There are things you don't do unless you're circumcised. You don't get the covenant of the land. You don't have that promise. The Greeks, are they privy to that land being theirs? They can be fully brought into the covenant, but is it necessary? for their redemption? No, not. Okay? How about the feast? All we have to do is go back to Leviticus 23. Do we have to keep the feast? That would be the first thing. Do I have to? And it's like me saying, I've got $500,000 in gold I'd like to give you, Denver. And Denver says, do I have to carry all that out of here with me? Do I have to keep the feast? Oh, come on. What kind of question is that? The Almighty creates us. He knows He's creating a party animal, and He says, I want you to party 3 times a year. I want you to do it this way. And I want you to save up 1/10 of all that you have and come up and buy anything your heart desires. Fatted oxen, you can have a big ox roast, you can roast sheep, you can buy wine and strong drink. I want you to have a party. I don't want you pouring out your drink offerings to other gods. I want you to do it my way. I want you to have a really, really big blowout party. Do we have to? Do we have to keep the feast? Oh, shut up! Stay home! Go to hell! I'm saying that in the context of Revelation because the third heaven and third earth is that the Almighty and the Lamb tabernacle with us forever and make their dwelling, their tabernacle with us forever. It's a forever feast of tabernacles. Do you have to come to that feast? No. You can go to hell. I mean, what's the problem, people? Are you so in love with going to Baptist Sunday school parties where they have styrofoam cups with some kind of chemical juice in it that was created in a laboratory and you call this punch? You call that a party? Goodness gracious! What do you want? He gives us 1 day in 7 to rest. Oh, I don't want to rest. Okay, die young. Man, that's what you get when you have Gentiles interpreting scripture Jews have written.
Israelites.
Israelites, thank you. Thank you, fellow Israelite. And now we hear from the Jewish American princess side of the family. Oh! Okay, so how about the laws? All 613 of them. 1,613. Now we're getting close to what we have in America. 2.4 million laws in America. Israel, 613. Do you have to keep them all? No. Some are just for the high priest on the Day of Atonement in the Holy of Holies. Some are just for Levites. Some are just for when you're going to the tabernacle or the temple. Some are if you're a Levite only. Some if you're a man only. Some only if you're a woman. Some if you're just a child. Okay? So that at no time can you possibly even begin to keep all 613. You know, how about, not having sex with animals? Okay, that's one of my favorite ones. You know, people want to do away with the Torah. Well, the Torah says don't have sex with animals. Okay? No, don't do that. That's sick. You know, that's for like college football coaches, okay? You sick perverts up there in Pennsylvania. Goodness gracious. Want to do that, become a priest. Sick people. My goodness. Satan is ashamed of you. My goodness. Yeah, there are some you're expected to keep. All right? Now, what about grace? What about grace? That was the old one. What is grace about? Was that it? Was that the question? What is grace about?
What is grace about?
Okay. The word grace, hen and hesed in Hebrew, appear more than the word grace does in the New Testament. But that does not mean that grace ended on the day of Pentecost. Do you hear me?
Well, that it began.
No, it certainly didn't begin, but I'm saying it appears more times in the Torah and prophets than it does in the New Testament, but that doesn't mean that grace ended at Pentecost. Mm-hmm. It didn't. Grace, let's see. Let's turn to the first example here. We can't miss this one. Genesis chapter 6, it should be. We've got the flood incident going on. Genesis chapter 6, it should be like in verse 6. Nope, it's verse 8. It repented the Almighty that he had made man, but, verse 8, Noah found grace in the eyes of Yahovah. This is the first occurrence of grace. And Noah was empowered to do something that I would dare say that the natural man would not be doing. He built an ark, like, my goodness, 300 cubits, which is 29.62 inches long. This thing is huge. And he did it. He made it of gopher wood. It still remains. It is in the mountains of Urartu today. Dr. Ekrem Erkogul, who found the vast Hittite civilization, which then put to bed all of the critics who said the Bible can't be true because they could never find the Hittites. Well, Dr. Ekrem Erkogul found the Hittite civilization, becoming one of the most famous archaeologists in all the world. The Turkish government hired Dr. Ekrem Erkogul and his team to investigate a boat-shaped object of petrified material in the mountains of Urartu that Ron Wyatt and David Fassold and Jim Irwin, the moon astronaut, did extensive work on. And at the end of the research, which took over a year, Ekrem Erkogul said, this is a boat. It is an ancient boat. It is the exact dimensions of Noah's Ark in the Bible, and it must be preserved at all cost. Now, Ekrem Erkogul could not say that this was Noah's Ark. Why? They did not find a petrified sign that said Noah's Ark. 5,000 BC. But the Turkish government spent millions of dollars building a highway, building a visitor center there, and people go up to it. There's an excellent video that we're going to be making available. I hope to get the gentleman that went up there and got the high definition footage of this thing. I hope to be able to have him on Shabbat Night Live soon. Excellent, excellent work. High definition right there at the mountain of Urartu, Doomsday Mountain, and this is where it took place. Now, I know I've gone over a little bit on this one, but I just had to tell you about that because it took grace for Noah to be empowered to do this. Now, here is your definition of grace. Everybody should have this memorized. Go to Titus. Titus chapter 2. Titus, Philemon, Hebrews. Titus. Timothy, Titus. Titus chapter 2. Verse 11, for the grace of God that bringeth salvation hath appeared to all men, teaching us that, okay, we can stop right here and just take a look at the English language for a moment here. The grace of God that brings salvation, that brings wholeness, that's what the word salvation is. It's sozo. In Greek, it is wholeness. The grace of God that brings wholeness hath appeared to all men, teaching us. What teaches us? It's the grace it's the grace of God that brings salvation that has appeared to all men. It is the grace of God that teaches us. It is not salvation that teaches us. It's not that appeareth to all men that teaches us. It is the grace of God that teaches us that denying ungodliness. And what is ungodliness? It is being anomia, without Torah. And worldly lusts, we should live soberly, righteously, and godly in this present world. That is the definition of grace. Anyone that uses the term grace as a license to sin, slap them. You know, just say, someone says, well, I kill people because I'm under grace. I murder people because I'm under grace. Okay? No, they're not. You don't break the Torah and say you're under grace in any way, shape, or form. Okay? It's verboten. That's German. Now we're doing German lessons here tonight. Okay? Okay, now let's go to another place to see this. Where it is? Titus 2. No. It's just before Revelation. What do you call that book? Just before Revelation. Jude. Thank you very much. Go to Jude. Go to the 14th chapter of Jude, please.
Verse.
There are no chapters. It's only one little letter here. Okay, there we go. Jude. It's one page before Revelation. Okay. Let's go to verse 3, and we're going to end up here because I think this will pretty well handle what we're talking about here. Okay? Beloved, when I gave all diligence to write unto you the word of can also be used as the word concerning, can also be put in its place. Write unto you concerning the common salvation. The word common is the word koine. The word koine means defiled. Like this, the New Testament was written in Koine Greek. It's not classical Greek. It is street Greek. Just like we have the Queen's English. Then we have Liza Doolittle speaking Cockney English. And then we have Americans slaughtering the English language. No, we don't. We standardize the spelling of the English language and bringing the British finally along into the, the current world, okay? Because they were all over the map. Just read your King James Version of the Bible if you want to see slaughtered spellings all over the place, okay? And so, when we say the common salvation, we're talking about defiled salvation, about a defiled message of salvation. Listen to this, because it defines itself right here. I don't have to, make this thing up, okay? I write unto you, brethren, beloved, when I gave all diligence to write unto you concerning the defiled salvation, it was needful for me to write unto you and exhort you that you should earnestly contend for the faith which was once delivered to the saints. Because that faith has been defiled. It has been watered down. For there are certain men crept in unawares who were before of old ordained to this condemnation, ordained to this judgment, ungodly men, turning the grace of our God into lasciviousness. Lasciviousness is the Old English word for license. Do what you want to do. The Torah's been done away with. Live however you want. What does it call these men? Ungodly men, who were before of old ordained to this condemnation. Where is their judgment pronounced? In the Torah. You violate the Torah, whether you are a stranger or natural born, whether you do it in ignorance or willfully, you are going to be judged for it. And evil men, ungodly men, wicked men have defiled the faith. They've crept in and turned the grace of our God, which is the empowerment to live a holy, a righteous, and a godly life in the middle of a sick, twisted, and perverse world. They've turned it into a license to sin. And they say, I'm not under the law. We have been redeemed from the curse of the law. Let's go there. One last place, and we'll close this up. So, see, See, this is why. You know, people write me an email like this, and they want me to write an answer back. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a book. You know, there are no one-verse answers in the Bible. Galatians. Where's Galatians? Galatians is just before Ephesians.
Yeah.
Or is it Ephesians? I never get that right. Galatians chapter 3, verse 13. Christ hath redeemed us from the curse of the law. This is what it says in King James. I prefer to say, Messiah has redeemed us from the curse of the law. People think that the law is a curse. No. Being made a curse for us. Okay? The curse of the law is death. Someone quote Romans 3:23. What's the first part of it? For all have sinned. For all have sinned, 1 John, sin is the violation of Torah. For all have violated Torah and fallen short of the glory of God. We have all sinned. The wages of sin is death. The wages of sin is death. What is that? Romans 8:28. For the wages of sin is death, but the gift of God is eternal life through Yeshua, Messiah, our Lord. Okay? So, the wages of sin is death. The curse of breaking the law is death. Who paid the death penalty for us? He paid the death penalty for us. If he didn't, we would die in our sin. And we would be eternally separated from the one who gave us the Torah. It's real simple, people. You have to interpret the writings of Shaul and the teachings of Yeshua in light of the Torah that we've had for thousands of years. It is not a book that just dropped out of the sky, a New Testament. Ha! Ha! Oh, we've never seen anything like this. Oh, it's words. What do these words mean? We have no idea because we've never seen words before. That's how most people treat it. No, all of these words were in here. They are defined in here. Once we have them accurately defined, then we find out that the Messiah there is a Messiah, an anointed one, the prophet who Moses said would come, and he would then clarify this Torah. And so when he came, he didn't do away with it. He clarified it so we'd understand it. The words New Testament, by the way, don't appear in the New Testament. Except where they're incorrectly translated. It's renewed covenant. There's no such thing as New Testament. It's renewed covenant. Those are the Hebrew words. Okay? So don't think that this just dropped out of heaven, out of a space capsule, onto the earth with no context. No. You've got to know the Torah or you'll never understand the Brit Hadashah, the renewed covenant. And until you understand Yeshua's teachings, you'll never really fully understand the Torah. Because it is all about Him and the plan of the Almighty. Judith, thank you for being with us. Sorry to take up all your time tonight.
Michael, really, but I also want to encourage everyone to get your materials because you've really answered all these very, very complex questions, which even though I've seen your materials many times, it's really hard to retain the details. So it's valuable, and it's why it is, because it's all answered in there, and you can't do it over and over again. So. Yeah,
and we had a real stumper. You expect the university students to come up with a real stumper. How do Messianics handle missions different than Protestants? This is a tough question, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to have to save this one for next time.
I'll bring that
this
with
one
me
is
the next
tough.
time.
This one's tough.
Shabbat shalom.
Because I'll tell you, I'm a mixture of both. I'm a Messianic who protests against Rome. I also protest. Oh, I'm only 26 minutes overtime. Beautiful. Good. We're going to take a break. We'll be back in just a moment. Thanks for being with us.
In the fall of 2002, A Rood Awakening Tours was launched and immediately distinguished itself by conducting the most exciting tour in modern-day Israel. Hosted by Michael Rood, we abandoned the canned Christian itinerary and discovered our heritage as seen through the eyes of our ancestors, Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, and Messiah Yeshua. Believers around the globe united in a quest to discover the Hebrew roots of their faith, witnessed history and prophecy unfolding before their eyes. Join us as we once again explore the ancient land of Israel. Leave your Western Gentile mentality behind and come experience the living scriptures from a Jewish or Hebrew perspective. Prepare for A Rood Awakening Tours of Israel. It's not just a tour, it's an extravaganza. Contact us for dates and information of our upcoming A Rood Awakening Tour.
Well, welcome back, Torah fans. Welcome back, Shabbat Night Live. Shabbat Shalom, everyone. I know that I went a little bit over on the question and answer time, but we were definitely into the scriptures, and so even though that is not the main body of what I wanted to teach tonight, I now have about I've got a little over a half hour to get in my 2-hour teaching. Tonight, usually I have an hour to get in my 2-hour teaching. But I felt as I got into it, I realized that these questions are the kind of questions that come up all the time to people. And really, it takes a kind of an entire paradigm shift. I say, my television program, from the back of that camel, I just before it turned around and bit me, I said, leave your Western Gentile mentality behind as we explore the scriptures from a Jewish or Hebrew perspective. This is the paradigm shift for which you've been waiting an entire lifetime. And in fact, that's what it is. It's a paradigm shift. You've been fed these numbered sound bites. You've been given these words in the context of Gentile, American Churchianity, theology, instead of in the context of the entire Torah. And my goal is to take you from Genesis 1:1 to Revelation 22:21, to put the whole thing together for you, to where it all flows together, to where there is no contradiction. I think probably the best example I give of this is in the opening of the seminar that I did, Raiders of the Lost Book. And I encourage you to get that video, Raiders of the Lost Book. It is a very powerful teaching on the ancient Hebrew Matthew, something you have to understand. If you think you want to understand the gospel of the kingdom, you must get Raiders of the Lost Book. There are no options. There are no shortcuts. If you have to go out and get a third job in order to buy it, I don't care, okay? I'm not whining, the people can't afford, $45. I can't tell you how many hundreds of thousands it takes to be able to do this stuff. And we brought Nehemiah in. We traveled America to be able to do it. We filmed it. We paid for the filming of it. See, we talk about freely, freely you have received, freely give. That's what we're talking about in this ministry. We are freely giving to you. It's your opportunity to freely give to us. And that means not just a tenth, not just a tithe. Get involved with the ministry. We're out to change the world, people. We're not here to babysit people. People that want to whine and play church and get into their old stuff, go ahead, all right? We're out to change the world because people are being set free from religion, and that is my goal. And part of this process, at Hanukkah, we are releasing this. This is the Yom Teruah at the Rock of Ages. I'll tell you, ladies and gentlemen, this is inspiring. This is thrilling. Denver got to see it, one of the first people who got to see one portion of it. He's not even going to be able to get to see the whole thing. This is the Day of Trumpets at the Rock of Ages, the Lost Lunas Decalogue. We go to Moon Mountain to sight the new moon of the Day of Trumpets. And this is where the Ten Commandments are written, etched in stone in Paleo-Hebrew on that mountain. And this is what starts off the entire weekend, ladies and gentlemen. Life-changing experience. You can't get it unless you go to Hanukkah. Hanukkah is where we are releasing it. And so drool over it, but you can't get it, okay? So now, we are going to go into the book of Maccabees, but in order to do that, we have to set the stage by the book of Daniel. And so we have a couple of weeks to be able to do this, so fear not, we are going to get you out in time tonight so that you can go to sleep, okay? People on the West Coast, they really don't care. Take your Bibles and turn to Daniel chapter 8. Daniel chapter 8. This is a vision that appeared to Daniel in the 3rd year of the reign of Belshazzar. And this is not Belteshazzar. Belteshazzar is Daniel's Chaldean name, but this is Belshazzar. This is the king that eventually is going to see the handwriting on the wall, which is more than just a figure of speech. This is where the figure of speech began, in the castle there in Babylon. And Daniel was the one that interpreted the handwriting, and that is the night that the Babylonian Empire fell. Nabopolassar being the head of that, Nebuchadnezzar being out of the picture, and Belshazzar being the one in charge. And he said that whoever interprets this handwriting on the wall, tells me what it means, will be the 3rd rule in the kingdom. Why? Because Belshazzar was number 2, Nabopolassar was number 1, and that would make Daniel then the 3rd ruler in the kingdom. And it's not that he hadn't been there before. He was there before. He is there that night, and that night the Medes and the Persians dammed up the Euphrates River, made their way underneath the wall, and took out the city of Babylon. They took out the capital, and that is then Daniel was made the satrap, and still was one of the head rulers in Babylon after the Medes and Persians came in. Of course, after that, Darius the Mede was the one that put Daniel in the lion's den. Daniel was an old man at that time, a wealthy old man at that time, one of the wealthiest in the entire empire. But it was the 3rd year of the reign of Belshazzar, in chapter 8, that we read about this in verse 3. Then I lifted up mine eyes and saw, and behold, there stood before the river a ram, which had 2 horns. And the 2 horns were high, but one was higher than the other, and the higher came up last. I saw the ram pushing westward and northward and southward, so that no beast might stand before him. Neither was there any that could deliver out of his hand. But he did according to his will, and became great. And as I was considering, behold, a he-goat came from the west on the face of the whole earth, and touched not the ground. And the he-goat had a notable horn between his eyes. And he came to the ram which had 2 horns, which I had seen standing before the river, and ran unto him, more accurately, ran into him in the fury of his power. And I saw him come close unto the ram, and he was moved with choler against him. And he smote the ram, and broke his 2 horns. And there was no power in the ram to stand before him. But he cast him to the ground, and stamped upon him, and there was none that could deliver the ram out of his hand. Therefore the he-goat waxed very great. And when he was strong, the great horn was broken. And for it came up 4 notable ones toward the 4 winds of heaven. Now we're going to stop here for just a moment, because this is done again in the 3rd year of Belshazzar. In the 3rd year of Belshazzar, this is before the handwriting on the wall, mene, tekel, upharsin, weighed in the balances and found wanting. It's years before that takes place, and he has a vision of what's going to happen. He has a vision that is fulfilled when the Medes and the Persians dam up the river, come in, and they take over and completely dominate the entire Chaldean Empire. The Medes and the Persians, the horn that comes up later is greater and larger. But at the pinnacle of their power, there comes about a he-goat that comes out of the west. He is moving so fast, it's like his feet are not even touching the ground. And he runs into that ram and smashes him. This great horn, this one horn that's in this ram, and smashes the he-goat, and he's down. He's completely stomped and trampled. Then, when the he-goat waxed very great and was strong, the great horn was broken. This is Alexander the Great. Alexander the Great, when he died, he then divided up his empire because he knew he was dying. He was in Babylon at the time, and he, as he was laying on his deathbed, he divided up his kingdom into 4 kingdoms: Egypt, Assyria, Turkey, and Greece, and divided it up among 4 of his generals. And so, then it goes on in verse 9 and following. I want to read as we continue on here. And out of one of them came forth a little horn, either out of Egypt, Assyria, Turkey, or Greece. This little horn is going to come, which waxed exceeding great toward the south, toward the east, and toward the pleasant land. And it waxed great even to the host of heaven, and it cast down some of the host of the stars of the ground and stamped upon them. Yea, he magnified himself even the prince of the host, and by him the daily sacrifice was taken away, and the place of his sanctuary was cast down. And an host was given him against the daily sacrifice by reason of transgression. And it cast down the truth to the ground, and it practiced and prospered. Then I heard one saint speaking, and another saint said unto me, that certain saint which spake, how long be the vision concerning the daily sacrifice and the transgression of desolation, to give both the sanctuary and the host to be trodden under foot? And he said unto me, unto 2,300, who has the word days in their Bible? Raise your hand. It's wrong. Who has evening and mornings in theirs? That's correct. Evening and mornings. It's talking about the evening and morning oblation. Now, when we talk about the abomination that makes desolate, we're talking about a desolation of the altar that stops the morning and evening oblations. To stop 2,300 evening and morning oblations takes exactly 1,150 days. Then shall the sanctuary be cleansed. And it came to pass, when I, even I, Daniel, had seen the vision and sought for the meaning, and behold, there stood before me as the appearance of a man. And I heard a man's voice between the banks of Eli, which called and said, Gabriel, Gabriel, make this man understand the vision. So Gabriel came near where I stood. Now we know what these saints were. These were not just good people. This is Gabriel, who stands in the presence of the Almighty. He came near where I stood, and when he came, I was afraid, and I fell down on my face. And he said unto me, O son of man, understand, for the time of the end shall be the vision. Now we're going to stop here, because we need to go forward to the book of Matthew and to see what Yeshua has to say about this particular incident. But before we do that, we are going to take a break, because we always want to give people an opportunity to be able to give in support of the ministry. And this really, when it all comes down to it, we have been putting this up on the internet where you can, so that we know that you're there, that you're alive, living, and breathing, that you're standing with us. We ask you to make a pledge. You don't have to give on Shabbat. Use your credit card and give, or PayPal or whatever. But ladies and gentlemen, really, when it comes down to it, I think I may be even catering to some silliness here, because, giving on the Sabbath, giving, it is an act of worship. Giving a sacrifice on the Sabbath is an act of worship. What we are doing here and running the cameras and our staff working, this is what Levites do on the Sabbath. We work harder on the Sabbath than any other day of the week. And so to say that, you can't give on the Sabbath, I mean, that's just a little bit on the silly side. But we're still going to give you an opportunity, If you want to give now, you can give now, because you're not buying anything. You're not buying and selling carburetors for your automobiles, okay? You're not selling me something. You're supporting the ministry, all right? And if you feel better in giving after the end of the Sabbath, like our Israel tour, don't register for the Israel tour right now. Wait till the end of the Sabbath. Why? Because you're actually buying a trip, okay? You're actually going to be paying for airfare and bus fare and everything else that we're going to do. When you get to Israel and you come on the tour, we'll give you an opportunity to give to the ministry, to help the ministry. But, when you go on the tour, you're buying a tour to Israel. That's what you're doing. If you want to give to the ministry to make it, make my trip to Israel worth it, then you can give when you get there, okay? But register after Shabbat for the tour. You can give now. If you've already given, let us know. I mean, it's encouraging for us to get a message that says, we called in this week, we talked to Evelyn, we talked to Judith, we support your ministry, we stood with you for years, we're with you, brother. If I had a check to write for $38,000, well, you do have a check. You can write it for $38,000. It may bounce as high as the moon, but I'm just saying, just say, if I had it, I'd give it. Okay, words of encouragement mean a lot to us. Okay, so we're going to give you just a couple minutes, and so thanks for standing with us. Thanks for doing your part in standing with us. Freely you have received. Now you can do your part and freely give. We'll see you in just a couple minutes. Welcome back. Welcome back. This is Shabbat Night Live. We had an extended time in answering questions earlier this evening, but we are now going to be into the book of Maccabees. We are into the incident that brings about Hanukkah. But we had to set the stage. We had to go back to Daniel chapter 8, where Daniel sees by revelation what is going to be happening to the Babylonian Empire, to the empire of the Medes and Persians, to then to the Grecian Empire, as the Grecian Empire is then broken up into 4 parts, and then out of the Grecian Empire comes forth a little horn. And it is this little horn that places the abomination that makes desolate. And then we see that there's going to be a period of time which is 2,300 evening and morning sacrifices, which takes 1,150 days, which is basically the 3.5 years for this entire thing to come full circle. And when the angel Gabriel is then told what this is all about, is told to tell Daniel what this is all about, he says this is for yet a time appointed. This is for the time of the end. And so we see that it was fulfilled in the days of the Maccabees, and we will be reading about this, but there's more to the story, and to tell you that part of it, and to put it in context, everyone turn to Matthew chapter 24. Matthew 24, and this, again, is the incident right after Yeshua's last message to Israel. Up on the Temple Mount, a multitude gathered there just before Passover, and this is when he dressed down the Pharisees in front of everyone, stormed off the Temple Mount, and told his disciples there wasn't going to be one stone left on top of another. They then went all the way over to the Mount of Olives, sat down, and then they asked him privately about when this is going to happen, because he just told them that something was going to happen that was going to destroy the entire fabric of the nation of Israel. And when it happened, over 1 million people were laying dead in the streets with their bloated carcasses baking in the sun. It was a horrific picture of what happened in Jerusalem. Now, when Yeshua is talking about this, they also asked him about his return. And he said to not let anyone deceive him. There were certain things that had to transpire before he returned. He said in verse 14, he said, "And this gospel of the kingdom should be preached in all the world for a witness unto all nations." Period. Put a period there in your Bible. Of course, it's not there in the Greek. There are no periods. There are no colons, no question marks. There is nothing there in the Greek, okay? Nothing in the text. Put a period there, because that's where it belongs. The gospel, this gospel of the kingdom, what gospel of the kingdom is he talking about? The one that he has been teaching, that his disciples have been preaching and performing miracles before there was any death, burial, and resurrection. The gospel of the kingdom is not the death, burial, and resurrection. He says the gospel of the kingdom. He's the king. These are the rules of the kingdom. You want to be in the kingdom, you live by the rules of the kingdom. You don't want to be in the kingdom, then don't live by the rules in the kingdom. And you will hear the words, "Depart from me, you workers of anomia, you who are without Torah." Okay? He said the gospel of the kingdom is going to be preached in all the world for a witness unto all nations. And then the end will come when you then see the abomination of desolation spoken by the prophet Daniel stand in the holy place. Whosoever reads, let him understand. That is the marker for the end time, for the telos, as it says in the Greek. It's not the preaching of the gospel in the whole world. That's our job. We're supposed to be doing that in every generation. It's not reserved for the end generation. We don't preach the grace perversion, and then finally in the end, we finally get around to preach the gospel of the kingdom. We don't preach the prosperity gospel perversion, and then finally in the end, somebody comes around with the gospel of the kingdom. No, we were supposed to be preaching the gospel of the kingdom the whole time. But they asked the question, when will the Santalia be? And he says that don't let anyone deceive you. It's not yet. In verse 6, A lot of bad things are coming down, but not yet. And then he said, when you see the abomination of desolation spoken by the prophet Daniel, that is the beginning of the telos. Now, important, spoken by the prophet Daniel, standing in the holy place. Whoso reads, let him understand. Anyone who reads Daniel understands. Anyone who reads the book of Maccabees, which was in this King James Version of the Bible, until the American and British Bible Societies decided to take it out in 1825 because they were so infatuated with the pagan perversion of Christmas by 1825, they had to take out the feast where we overthrew the Greeks who were celebrating Christmas on the Temple Mount. Yes, they put a statue of Zeus on the Temple Mount on Zeus's birthday, December 25th, declaring Zeus to be God, sacrificed a Christmas pig on the altar, thereby defiling the altar, placing the abomination that made desolate, and the Maccabees overthrew them against insurmountable odds, and then tore down the altar, built a new altar, sanctified the new altar, which takes 8 days to do so. 8 days to Hanukkah, an altar. Hanukkah, dedicate. That is what Hanukkah is all about. The 8 days of Hanukkahing. We're going to Hanukkah on Hanukkah. A Hanukkahing, or dedicating the altar. Okay? So, Yeshua knows, you read that. You read about this and you understand. It was not fulfilled in the final time in the days of Antiochus Epiphanes, which we're going to read. There is yet another time that the angel Gabriel was instructed to tell Daniel that it's yet for a later time. It's for that time, but it's for a later time. There are multiple fulfillments of the feasts. Just like the Word is made flesh and tabernacled among us, and we beheld his glory as of the glory of the only begotten of the Father. He tabernacled with us on the first day of the Feast of Tabernacles. He was circumcised on the 8th day, the last great day. He was circumcised on the high Sabbath, so that the Torah would not be broken. And yet, it's not the final fulfillment. It tells us in Zechariah that Yehovah Tzevaot will be ruling from his throne in Jerusalem for 1,000 years. And if you don't come up to the Feast of Sukkot, Tabernacles, when the king is tabernacling on the earth, it's not going to rain on your nation for a whole year. It's still not the final fulfillment, because we get to the end of the book of Revelation, chapter 21, and there's a new heaven and a new earth, which we already spoke about, and that is when the Father and the Lamb now make their tabernacle with men and tabernacle with us forever. It's a forever fulfillment of the Feast of Tabernacles. It's beautiful. And so we have to understand, if we're going to understand the end time abomination of desolation, you cannot ignore the book of Maccabees. We are going to war against the band of Antiochus. This is not playing games. We are not playing church. We are not playing Greek church. So, I was going to go someplace else, and I will. We've got a few minutes, ladies and gentlemen. We've got just a couple minutes, because this has to be understood. Zechariah chapter, let's try chapter 6. If it's not there, we'll find it someplace. Ooh, it's not there. Oh, you guys think it's funny. It's chapter 9. If you take a 6 and turn it upside down, see, it's like, it's there. It's someplace in the mind. You just have to turn it upside down, okay? Okay. Chapter 9, verse 12. Turn you to the stronghold, you prisoners of hope. Even today do I declare that I will render double unto thee, when I have bent Judah for me, filled the bow with Ephraim, bent Judah. So Judah is pictured or depicted as the bow, right? You take the bow, and I have bent Judah and filled it with the arrows of Ephraim. The arrows are supposed to stay straight. The bow is what is bent under intense pressure. It is Israel that is supposed to keep the Torah. Israel, grafted in and otherwise, are supposed to remain straight. They do not compromise with Judah in order to look acceptable. You don't have to look Jewish to be acceptable. You are acceptable. Someone wrote in and had a very good question. Judith, you showed that to me, and you didn't get to read it. Show that to me right now. I got to see that. You got it right there. Hand it to me. Just give me all that. Give me all those papers. I will find it. Okay? Okay. You don't think it's in there. I think it's in there. Okay. After watching some of your videos, I have a question. I'm aware that the Jewish men wear particular articles of clothing. Is there even one article of the Jewish apparel that would be appropriate for a Gentile to wear? I personally would love to show all the Jewish people who I come into contact with that I'm in full support of them as God's chosen race of people. Brother, I look forward to the day. Okay. Well, first of all, the Jewish people are not God's chosen race of people. Israel is his people that were chosen to receive his commandments and to be his prophets and priests to the whole world. That's how Israel is the chosen people, okay? It's not like a chosen race, okay? You know, Abraham was not a Jew. He was not the first Jew. He was the first Hebrew. Hebrew meaning crossover. He crossed over the Euphrates River coming out of Babylon, okay? So he worshiped the true God. The true God revealed himself to him in a very real and personal way, in a way that is more personal and real than any of us have ever imagined. Like when he tells him to kill his son, he does it. Well, he almost does it. He would have done it had the Almighty not stopped by the hand of the angel, okay? But we are told when we bring our first fruit offering to Israel, to the temple, we are to then recite that my father was a Syrian, ready to die. We're talking about our father Abraham. He was a Syrian. He lived in Assyria. You know, he lived in Babylon. And so, you know, we were chosen, but it was, see, it's not all of Abraham's, it's Abraham's offspring through Isaac. Abraham, Isaac, and then Jacob. Jacob, who is renamed Israel. Okay? And so those offspring were brought to Mount Sinai, and we were given the choice. Will you keep my commandments? If you will be my segula, my chosen people, my precious treasure. You will be my priest, my prophets to the whole world. That was our job. That's what we were offered. Okay? Now, Numbers chapter 15 tells us what articles of clothing. I might as well answer this right now, okay? What article of clothing we should be, that anyone can wear, okay? Numbers, someplace in Numbers. Numbers 15, I think. Numbers 15. Okay, here we go. Verse 37. And Yahweh spake unto Moshe, saying, Speak unto the children of Israel, and bid them that they make them fringes on the borders of their garments throughout their generations, and that they put upon the fringe of the border a ribbon of blue. And it shall be unto you for a fringe, that ye may look upon it and remember all the commandments of Yahovah to do them, and that you seek not after your own heart and after your own eyes, after which you used to go a-whoring. Now, on the corners of the garment, that's what we wore. That's what I wear on the television program. I don't wear this all the time, but on the television program I do. Now I'm going to stand up and I'm going to show you something here because I have an adaptation of that. That is an official biblical garment. The prayer shawl is an adaptation. The talit katana is an adaptation. This is the finest adaptation that has ever been created. This is the micro talit. This goes over the belt loops, and it has the tzitzit, the fringe on the corner of this four-cornered garment with the ribbon of blue that reminds us to keep the commandments. I like wearing the ones with the stripes on them. Other people like different varieties, but people are all the time asking me about this. And I tell them this is what we are commanded to put on the corners of our garment at Mount Sinai to remind us to always keep the commandments. Now, some will say, a rabbinic Jew will say, well, you can't wear tzitzit without having a kippah on. Then you say to them, wait just a minute. The Torah says nothing about wearing a kippah. It says wear tzitzit. Okay? Women can wear tzitzit, men can wear tzitzit, little children can wear tzitzit. It is not, it's unisex. Or it is transsex. No. Oh, it's gay clothing. No, no. Anyone can wear it. You know, the women's micro tallits look a little bit different, and their full tallits look a little different. But I'm saying that here's a garment that you can wear, and you will get criticized for it. Nehemiah is a Karaite. He wears his tzitzit in Israel without a kippah. People come up to him criticizing all the time. Where's your kippah? He said, I'm a Karaite. God forbid, Karaite. See, the kippah is representative that you are under the authority of the rabbis. And they say that you may never pray without your head covered. You may not walk 4 paces without your head being covered. Okay? And when you wear a kippah, that shows that you are under the authority of the rabbis. So, back to Zechariah. When I have bent Judah for me and filled it with Ephraim and raised up thy sons, O Zion, because Zion, Ephraim, and Judah are Israel. Okay? And raised up thy sons, O Zion, against thy sons, O Greece, and made thee as the sword of a mighty man. Ladies and gentlemen, whether we are Jewish, whether we're an Israelite, natural born, grafted in Messiah, who is the prophet of whom Moses spoke, who reinforced that we do not add to the Torah, we do not take away. We are standing with the Messiah. We are standing against the ban of Antiochus. We are going to go to war with the system, and when we come back next week, we are going to start out in Maccabees. You can order it this week so then you get your own, okay? But we're going to start out, and we're going to go right through it because it's going to tell us the story where we left off with Daniel. We're going to be right there with Alexander the Great. We are going to be there at the death of Alexander the Great and the dividing of his kingdom into the 4 nations, just as Daniel prophesied. We are then going to see the little horn come into his fullness, the abomination that makes desolate, and we are going to understand the war that Zion was in war against Greece back then, because we're still in the same war today. We are going to be in that war in the end times, and if you are ignorant of what's in this book, if you're ignorant of Hanukkah, if you are unwilling to be one of the 300, unwilling to be one of these warriors, then God help you. We'll see you next week. Shabbat Shalom. We'll be into Hanukkah.